The Seahawks fall to the Giants 29-20 in a game they should have not won. The Seahawks multiple times had opportunities to win this ball game. At the very end, a field goal that would have most likely sent the game into overtime is blocked. We'll talk about that and a lot more here on the NW Sportscast Seahawks post-game show. Well, guys, this was a game the Seahawks needed to win. I came away from this game thinking, man, we just lost to the Giants? I mean, really? The New York Giants, a team that, by all accounts, is one of the worst teams in the NFL, and the Seahawks are vying for not only a playoff spot, they're vying for an NFC West title. It'll be their first in a few years, and you lose to the Giants? Okay, listen, a loss to the Lions, I get, but the Giants, it's not going to cut it. You can't have Daniel Jones go 23 for 34, 2 touchdowns, and not force a turnover against him. You can't have Tyrone Tracy Jr. go for 129 on just 18 carries. It's not going to cut it. This defense was not good enough today. And not only was the defense not good enough, quite frankly, the offense wasn't good enough, but I don't necessarily think that's the offense's fault. I hated the play calling today. I thought this was absolutely atrocious offensive coordinator job. The fact that Geno Smith threw the ball 40 times and Kenneth Walker had 5 carries. 5 carries for one of the most dynamic running backs in the game is unacceptable. Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker combined for just 7 carries. And they averaged 3.8 and 5.5 yards per carry respectively. They were getting going and just completely abandoned the run. I mean, the fact that Geno Smith was our leading rusher with 72 yards and it wasn't close, absolutely ridiculous. Ryan Grubb, this was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious that you rely on Geno Smith, who is by all accounts one of, a below average quarterback in the NFL, to put it quite frank, and Kenneth Walker, who is a top 10 running back, and you don't give him the ball more. So what did the Giants do? I mean, to their credit, they brought the house. They dropped their linebackers in coverage because they knew they weren't going to run the ball. And they got to Geno Smith 6 times. So, look, what can you do? The Seahawks looked really poor today offensively. And it wasn't Geno Smith's fault. It wasn't Tyler Lockett's fault. Kenneth Walker, DK. It wasn't any of their faults. It was, quite frankly, quite simply put, Mike McDonald and Ryan Grubbs. This was the worst coached game I've seen from the Seahawks thus far in the Mike McDonald era, that is. So the Giants, they beat the Seahawks 29-20. That's your final score. It's a game the Seahawks hopefully will forget pretty soon. But look, if you're going to try to win the NFC West, I know the Niners lost again. I think that, I didn't check the score, but the Rams were down, and they did end up losing to the Packers. All of a sudden, the Cardinals are one of your biggest adversaries, the biggest roadblock between you and the NFC West title. You're still on top of the division as the only team in the West with a winning record. So not everything is lost by any means, but this is a game you have to pick up. You have to pick up because now you got the Niners, which is a tough game, obviously. Thursday Night Football, short week against the Niners, Kyle Shanahan, who's historically dominated the Seahawks. That's not going to be good. Then you have the Falcons, who are looking like one of the better teams in the NFL. Then you got the Bills, Rams, and 49ers after that. So your next 5 games are super rough, and it doesn't really get any easier from there. The Cardinals are looking like one of the better teams in the NFL. Who knows? The Jets on December 1st, maybe have figured stuff out by then. You get the Cardinals again, the Packers, and then the Vikings, who are all of a sudden the best team in the NFL. You don't have any gimmies from here on out until, maybe December 26th. You could kind of pencil in a win against the Bears. But other than that, you got toss-ups. So, look, I think in the Seahawks' next 8 games, if you say they went 2-6, I said, yeah, that makes sense. So the fact you lose a game to the Giants, yes. Are the Seahawks 3-2? Sure. Are the Seahawks still leading the NFC West? Yes. Do the Seahawks still have a lot to play for this rest of the season? Obviously they do. but this does not help the Hawks at all. And this was a game the Seahawks needed to win in my eyes, and they couldn't get it done. Let's go with some more individual routes. I've talked a little bit about Geno Smith, but we can delve into him a little bit more. I thought Smith looked pretty good today. In that fourth down drive that inevitably had a kick blocked, Smith looked really fast. He was able to escape the pocket, rush for about 40 yards. That was a really nice play by Geno Smith, able to kind of see that the pocket collapsed, no one was open downfield, and he just bursted out. No linebacker was there to watch him. Geno Smith deceptively fast, and he shows it there. He went 28 for 40. That's a good stat line. 1 touchdown, no interceptions. You're not going to complain about that either. So, as much as you want to say, look, the offense didn't have a great showing, it definitely wasn't because of Geno Smith. You know what I mean? I thought he played pretty good. We can keep going down the list. Jason Myers, 2 for 3. I thought he had a great game. Unfortunately, his last kick was blocked. That's something else that's unacceptable. You can't allow, I don't even know who was, I think it was the long snapper. I'm blanking on the long snapper's name for the Hawks, but I believe it was him that he got, barreled over. Just absolutely hurdled. Great play by the Giants, but unfortunately the Seahawks have to be expecting something like that. It's the third phase of the game that often wins or loses you football games. It's not going to be the sole reason you win or lose, but when push comes to shove, you got to make a kick. You got to stop a blocked kick. You got to, make the right punt. You got to do the little things right in that third phase. And it's a lot of those guys that are kind of sitting on the bench for most of the game that when the game's on the line, when the chips are all shoved up, who's going to get the job done? It's the special teams. And the Seahawks got outplayed on the special teams unit today unequivocally. And the Hawks very well could have won that game in overtime, and instead a blocked kick, and all of a sudden the Hawks lose to the Giants. So yeah, that was inexcusable in my eyes. Once again, I'm going to go back to it. I think this loss is on the coaches. I do. I think the Seahawks weren't put in a good position to win this game. Geno Smith threw the ball way too much, but that isn't always on him. He can only do with what he got. A lot of people will say, well, a lot of it was RPOs. Sure. But sometimes you got to drop the simple stuff. Let's just let Kenneth Walker do his thing. Give him the ball in space. Wasn't doing that today. Tyler Lockett. Good to see him getting going a little bit. He was the leading yards grabber for the Seahawks. 75 off 4 receptions. Kenneth Walker, he's second on the list as a running back. He also leads all pass catchers with 7 receptions. So Kenneth Walker, although he couldn't make his presence felt in the rushing attack, he is able to do it in the receiving, and he does eclipse, it looks to be 70 yards on the day. So good for him. He only touches the ball 13 times in total, but it's enough to make himself really impactful in this one. DK Metcalf, 4 receptions, 55 yards, and if you guys think I was going to end this postgame show without talking about DK Metcalf, well, you're wrong, because once again, DK Metcalf fumbles the ball in a crucial spot. Happens back-to-back games. And back-to-back games where, quite frankly, he didn't need to do it. He could have just kind of gone down, and something I love about DK Metcalf is his ability to fight for those extra yards. He's one of, if not the most physically gifted players the NFL has ever seen. And with that power comes the responsibility that sometimes the best thing to do is, that half yard where you reach the ball out is not worth it. Go down. And once again, DK Metcalf is unable to see the bigger picture and fumbles, which a lot of people equate to kind of a fluky stat. Well, the fluky stat, quote-unquote, has now gotten DK in back-to-back games and has potentially costed 2 wins for the Seahawks. So, fluky or not, the Seahawks got to figure it out. DK Metcalf has to figure it out. We'll see. Can he get it done? Obviously would love to, but the Seahawks are going to have to make a decision on DK Metcalf. Do you re-sign him? He's going to cost a lot. Do you sacrifice other players that you're going to have to let go to make room for DK Metcalf in the salary cap? I don't know. But that decision might become clearer and clearer if these small mistakes continuously haunt DK and the rest of the team. We'll see. JSN, 4 receptions, 31 yards, and the touchdown. It was the touchdown before, the 3 and out from the defense that then led to the blocked kick. He looked okay. Noah Fant, he gets involved, 3 for 24. That's about all you have to see there. Defensively, not a great game, just 3 sacks, so you get to the quarterback a little bit. Jerome Baker is on top of the list for the Seahawks, 8 tackles and a sack, but overall, I understand the Giants took over in Seahawks territory a lot. I understand they were put in a tough position. They got that 3 and out at the end of the game, which I thought was huge, but to allow Tyrone Tracy Jr. to go $129 on you, that's not a good day in the office in my eyes. It's not. So, look, Mike Macdonald's defense, which looked like the best defense in the NFL through the first 3 weeks, you now have seen falter back-to-back weeks. Is that because the NFL's figured him out? Probably not. I think that's more just because the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Broncos are that bad at football. And we'll see next week against a 49ers team that's really, really good. Can the Seahawks defense have a bounce-back performance? Because right now, the Lions 42 points, the Giants 29 points. That's not going to get it done. Not going to get it done. And unfortunately, Mike Macdonald's big strength, which has been his defense, it's looked like a little bit of a weakness so far. So we'll have to see how the Seahawks are able to respond. I'm not doubting Mike Macdonald. I'm not saying our defense is going to be bad for the rest of the year. I'm just saying that when push comes to shove, the Seahawks are going to win football games because of their defense. And today, the Hawks' defense wasn't good enough to win a ball game. And even after all of that, to the defense's credit, they did get a big 3-and-out stop and a blocked kick happen. What are you going to do? But if the defense just, played a little bit better beforehand, that would have not happened. So, look, we'll see. If I had to take away, before we get out of here, I'm almost done. Don't worry, you guys can leave soon. When I take my big 2 takeaways from this game, would be one from, honestly, I could have 3 big takeaways. You lost the special teams battle. You see that at the end of the game. Defensively, I thought you looked pretty bad against a bad offense, which is never good to see. Specifically, I thought the rushing defense was really poor. And then the third thing I would say is, the big 3 would be that you go to the offense, because if you're in it on the special teams and the defense, you got to go to the offense too. The third thing was that you didn't give the ball to Kenneth Walker and the rest of the running attack enough, as balloons fly at my screen. I don't know what that's about. Because, the balloons are definitely not warranted because Kenneth Walker had just 5 carries. So, and we'll see. I'm reading a stat right now. Kenneth Walker has had only 17 combined carries the last 2 weeks after logging only 5 today. The Seahawks lost both games. The Seahawks are 8-1 when Walker has 13-plus carries last season. 8-1. Give the ball to K9, you win a lot of football games. That's kind of the bottom line. Not only does it help out your offense, it helps out Geno Smith, it helps out your defense. Unfortunately, the Seahawks weren't able to do those 3 things. So, that's about all I got. It's a really disappointing loss. This is a game the Seahawks should have won, so it's unfortunate. There's not much really to say other than this was a game the Seahawks should have won and they weren't able to do so. So thank you guys all for listening. Thanks for watching. Keep supporting the channel. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe on the video. Lots of good sports to watch. You obviously got a big Huskies win yesterday. MLB, if you're into that thriller happened tonight between the Phillies and the Mets. Lots of fun stuff. We'll get another power rankings out to you guys on the Coast to Coast Sports channel, so go check that out. And that's all I got for you. This is the NW Sportscast Seahawks postgame show. I'm Albaugh saying so long, and as always, go Seahawks. Bye, everybody.